All right. In the interest of time, we are going to kick things off. Wow, it looks like we have over 500 people who have joined us today. Again, thank you for taking some time. Few housekeeping notes before we proceed. This workshop is being recorded and everyone will receive a copy of this recording. So if you have to step away at any point or get distracted, not to worry. Again, everyone will receive a copy of this recording, as well as some other informational resources to help you going forward. Now, that said, today's sort of style is in the town hall format. So we're mostly going to be delivering information to you all. And for those who have attended our workshops or webinars in the past, you know that they are highly interactive and we are usually answering, as many, if not all of the questions that you have. But today is just a little bit different given the volume and size of our attendees. So we encourage you to put any questions you have in the Q&A, but we do not guarantee we're going to be able to answer them in today's session, that is. We are going to be going through and looking for some of the common themes and questions that attendees are asking and posting those and the answers to those questions in the chat for everyone to see. And then for any questions that you have after today's session, the best place to get those answered is in your Savi account and working with our amazing customer support team. And then if you need to enable closed captioning or live transcription during the webinar, we're going to be posting a link in the chat with instructions on how to enable this feature on Zoom. All right, so a quick look at the agenda that we're going to cover here today. So we're first going to do some brief introductions of who we are at the Savi Borrower Advocacy Team and Savi itself, in case this is your first experience with us. And then we're going to dive right in. I'm going to kick things off with somewhat of an overview to really sort of set the stage for what we're going to talk about here today and help frame your mindset around what's happening now, what might happen in the future when it comes to some of these programs. And then we are going to really dive into the details and what that means in the context of each of these programs. So things like broad-based forgiveness plans, SAVE, and other income-driven repayment plans, PSLF or public service loan forgiveness, one-time account adjustments, and more. So we're going to talk about, the state of these programs now and potentially what those could look like in the next administration. And then we're going to wrap things up by really capturing exactly what you need to do now, if anything, and know going forward. And of course, that's where Savi comes in. Savi can play the role of your advocate and is designed to be there every step of the way going forward. All right, so let us introduce ourselves. My name is Lindsay Clark. I'm the Chief Borrower Advocate here at Savi, and I've been leading our educational workshops and webinars for over 5 years. And I'm really excited to be joined by my colleagues on the Borrower Advocacy team, Katie Kasmir, who is head of our customer success team, and Jobe McDermott, our Senior Marketing and Education Associate. Many of you may be familiar with Katie and Jobe already. They have led a lot of our educational workshops already, but they interact with student loan borrowers all day, every day. And the three of us work together in combination to really be your advocates. And what that means is we understand and listen to the experiences that you are having as a student loan borrower. In fact, all three of us are student loan borrowers ourselves. And then we take that information and we do something about it. We elevate those experiences and stories to the policymakers, regulatory agencies, and government bodies overseeing these student loan policies and programs to affect change. So that's really why we are looking out for all of you when we host something like this. And it's really important that we deliver the most accurate information that we can, especially at a time like this. Now, we all work for a company called Savi. Savi is a social impact technology startup based in Washington, D.C. We were founded by student loan experts and advocates who've been fighting on behalf of the borrower for more than a decade. And they saw how difficult it was for borrowers to navigate some of these federal programs on their own. Primary example being public service loan forgiveness, which had a 99% rejection rate when borrowers were first able to apply. All to say they saw this and decided to do something about it. So they developed Savi as a technology platform and a human service to help borrowers like you and like me not only better understand our student loan debt, but to navigate successfully from start to finish around some of these programs. But along the way, our goal is to make the experience of being a student loan borrower a better one, because I think we can all agree it's not great. And we try to do that by identifying as much additional savings as possible on a monthly basis through things like income-driven repayment plans. At Savi, we like to think that you, the borrower, are our top priority, not your student loan debt. There are a lot of entities and companies in this space that are there to serve your debt and not you. They make money off of your debt, and that's not us. We really put the borrower first. That's sort of a borrower first mentality is how we operate every day. And that's exactly why we're hosting this town hall here today. And you are all able to attend and benefit from the Savi resources because you either work for or are part of an organization that offers and provides Savi as an exclusive student loan benefit. So not just anyone can have access to Savi's tools and resources. We work with some incredible partners across the country, over 400 of them, to provide our services and technology and support as an exclusive student loan benefit to be able to help members of that community with their student loans. And this Savi benefit is not just available to you, the individual borrower, but your family members as well. This is really important for us because we know how student debt can oftentimes run in families. And so it's just as powerful to be able to help your sister, spouse, son with their student loans as it is yourself. All right, so with those introductions out of the way, we are going to dive in. And again, this is sort of going to be a level setting and really sort of an introduction to everything we're going to talk about here today. We wanted to sort of start off with some top-line messaging to help frame your mindset accordingly. So I know many borrowers are concerned that the re-election of Donald Trump will limit their financial options for student loans and potentially have, financially devastating consequences. Borrowers are justifiably worried about their student loan debt. But I will say this, even with President Trump's election, many repayment plans and forgiveness options are likely to remain unchanged. And again, we're going to talk about the reasons why in a bit here. But I also want to remind everyone that President Trump's first term saw no repeal of existing repayment and forgiveness programs. Okay. And nothing will materially change for the next few months, likely more, even into the start of the next administration. And while it's fair to say that the election results were a setback for borrowers, it's important to note that many borrower protections are in place to ensure the continued availability of these resources. Now, I want to just quickly also talk about, what things look like on the policy side and really what's at stake when it comes to programs being either repealed or eliminated. So just to give some context, the Biden administration, all right, relied heavily on the regulatory process to expand relief under existing loan forgiveness and repayment programs, thereby broadening access and making it easier for borrowers to qualify. The reason they relied on the regulatory process, right, and by drafting regulations under existing statutory authorities, was because it allowed the administration to avoid a difficult fight in Congress. So they were able to improve these programs without having to go through Congress to do so. But under a Trump administration, these new regulations can be repealed using the same process that the Biden administration utilized to create them, okay? And the most at-risk programs are likely some of the income-driven repayment plans, most notably the new SAVE plan, which has already been blocked by lawsuits. And again, we're going to talk in more detail on that in just a bit. However, other federal student loan forgiveness and relief and repayment programs may be tougher to eliminate because they were expressly created by Congress, and therefore it would take an act of Congress to change or repeal them. So these include several popular programs like Public Service Loan Forgiveness, or PSLF, which was written into law in 2007, okay, by Congress. So it would take an act of Congress to repeal that. And there have been several attempts over the years, even during the Obama administration and during Trump, and those were unsuccessful, okay? So just want to help, give some framework as to, why some programs may be at risk more so than others. But today, our goal really is to present all of you with a very fact-based, unemotional analysis, all right, of what you need to know and what the next 4 years might hold for you as a student loan borrower. Okay, that is really our goal today. And as always, Savi will continue to monitor every aspect of the student loan system to provide you with the most accurate and up-to-date information. And to help us do that, you want to make sure that your Savi account is complete and up to date with all of your information. And you can always upgrade to our premium services, Essential or Pro, to be able to receive that one-on-one support with a dedicated agent and end-to-end program enrollment. All of the applications and paperwork we take care of for you. So that's always at your disposal. All right, so now that we've sort of level set things, right? We are going to dive right in and talk about some of these programs in a bit more context. We're going to start with sort of this broad-based mass student loan forgiveness plan, otherwise known as Biden's forgiveness plan. So this is not to be confused with public service loan forgiveness, a different forgiveness program. So let's dive in. So while the concept of mass student loan forgiveness or broad-based forgiveness has gained, enormous traction during the last decade or so, unfortunately, the issues become extremely polarized. Republican lawmakers and even some conservative-leaning Democrats have come out strongly against all attempts to enact widespread debt cancellation. Okay? With President Trump now declared the winner of the 2024 election, mass student loan forgiveness is likely off the table. Okay, and this was something that President Biden had tried to push through over the last couple of years, especially, and was known as Biden's forgiveness plan. Some of you will probably remember last summer, the Supreme Court nixed President Biden's initial attempt at broad student loan forgiveness. In a 6-3 ruling, the court's majority held that wiping out $10,000 in federal student loan debt for most borrowers was not authorized under the federal statute the administration had relied on. Now, despite the Supreme Court ruling, the Biden administration forged ahead with a Plan B, as they called it, for mass loan forgiveness. The first component would have provided broad relief to 4 categories of borrowers, including those who first entered repayment decades ago and people whose loan balances have exploded due to interest. That program was halted by a federal court last month following a legal challenge. Now, meanwhile, the administration moved forward with a second component of that loan forgiveness plan and released proposed regulations in October, this past October, that would provide several pathways to relief for borrowers experiencing hardship. And the Department of Education had anticipated implementing that aspect of the program sometime in 2025. But once he takes office, President Trump, who has opposed these efforts towards broad-based cancellation, is highly likely to eliminate these initiatives, which would cut off, these avenues for debt relief once and for all. So these never really existed as far as, real programs to begin with. And so when President Trump does take office, it's likely that these will not continue in their form or in any form going forward. All right. And again, I don't want anyone to confuse this broad-based forgiveness, or what we will call President Biden's forgiveness plan, with some of the other forgiveness programs we're going to talk about later on in the presentation. All right, at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Katie Kasmir, who's going to talk to you about some of the repayment plans and what's going on there. So Katie, I will turn it over to you.
Hi, everyone. We are going to go over the different repayment plans just to get an idea of how many people here are in the Save plan. If you can do the raise your hand option, just so we can, yep. So it looks like we're probably going to top over around 260 people are in the Save plan. So this is definitely going to be important to talk about. So we can go ahead and move to the next page. So right now, with the future of Save and the Save lawsuit, it's pretty unlikely that the lawsuit will be resolved before the new administration is sworn in on January 20th next year. So while this almost certainly means the end of the SAVE repayment plan, how it all plays out does remain an open question with a lot of implications. This is, I've already seen a lot of questions in the Q&A today about it. A lot of questions about how SAVE will work with PSLF, which Jobe will go over a little bit more later, and what this means for other repayment plans. So the SAVE rules that the Biden administration put out back in 2022, they didn't just create the SAVE plan. They also eliminated the Repay plan, which was an older income-driven repayment plan, and it also limited the enrollment for both the ICR, income contingent repayment plan, as well as the pay plan. It also allowed for this, what's called the double consolidation loophole, which allowed some borrowers with Parent Plus loans to actually enroll in the SAVE plan. So the Biden administration last month has already mentioned reopening the pay and ICR plans for new enrollments. They have said that this should be later this year, and this should help borrowers who are impacted by this litigation. Right now, a lot of borrowers have been forced into forbearance, unable to make any payments to count towards public service loan forgiveness, to count towards IDR forgiveness. It's been really difficult for borrowers. So reopening these plans is allowing borrowers to access similar monthly payments to kind of get back on track. If they move quickly, one possibility is to modify SAVE to also bring back Repay, which would be really, really wonderful for a lot of borrowers. There is some concern about all of these plans under the ICR, or income contingent repayment plan statute. This is what allowed these repayment plans to be created. And if SAVE is not allowed to continue, there is a possibility that it could eliminate these other repayment plans if the Trump administration decides to proceed forward with that. There are significant barriers that exist to do this. We're going to talk about it in a few slides. So let's go ahead and move on to those, and we're going to talk about these other repayment plans. Okay, so first we're going to talk about the IBR, or income-based repayment plan. So we say that this plan is the safest repayment plan. And what that really means is that this is the safest from being eliminated. So borrowers can, if they are in this plan, they can pretty much know that something like the SAVE lawsuit would be extremely, extremely unlikely when you're in the income-based repayment plan. And this safety applies for both the original plan, which was released in the 1990s, as well as the more generous plan, which was released in 2014. So there are two key protections that are in place for this plan. One is statutory protection. So this plan is guaranteed by statute. To change these rules, Republicans would need a majority in the House and a supermajority in the Senate. Because Democrats hold over 40 seats in the Senate, they can filibuster to block changes to the statute. Even in scenarios where Republicans can't overcome a filibuster, the existing borrowers would likely be grandfathered into IBR eligibility. The second one, which is almost kind of bigger, is your master promissory note, or the MPN. This is something when you are first taking out these loans, you sign your NPN, that is a contract between you and the federal government. If Congress attempts to eliminate IBR for borrowers, a lawsuit would almost certainly follow to assert your contractual rights. So the combination of both of these protections should provide borrowers with confidence in the continued availability of IBR. And that's why we consider it the safest plan. There are some unique elements to the IBR plan. For older loans, it can have some higher discretionary income rates. There's also interest that capitalizes if you move from the IBR plan to a different plan. So there's always considerations. And then digging a little bit deeper, if the master promissory note is protecting the IBR plans, why wasn't there noise about it when Repay was removed? And the reason why there weren't any issues about that is because when Repay was eliminated and Save took its place, Save offered more benefits to borrowers. So there wasn't a need for borrowers to pull together a lawsuit for protections. Okay, now we're going to talk about ICR and Pay New Availability. So like I said a few slides earlier, the Department of Ed announced last month that they are going to expand ICR and Pay access to help borrowers. Starting July 1st, they had stopped accepting new applications for these plans, but they're going to revert back to the old rules where borrowers are allowed to apply. The election results should add urgency for the Department of Education to start processing these applications. Both of these plans were created through regulatory rulemaking process. In theory, the next administration could roll back these regulations, but borrowers still have some protections, most notably that master promissory note. It includes language for both ICR and Pay. So similar with the IBR plan, these repayment plans are part of your loan agreement with the federal government. Additionally, if there were a legal challenge to these plans, similar to the challenge to Save, the lawsuit would likely fail due to the 6-year rule under the Administrative Procedure Act. And this act basically prevents improper agency behavior. So it's going to protect borrowers. And then let's talk a little bit about Repay. There are some ideas that potentially Repay could make a return. So Repay was a plan that was pretty similar to the Pay plan, but it was originally created under the Obama administration. The status of Repay differs from ICR and Pay because the Save replaced Repay. There is a strong likelihood, however, that Repay could return in its original form if Save is eliminated. So there are a few differences between Save and Repay. And so those benefits with Save would not continue with Repay. Again, Master Promissory Note and the Administrative Procedure Act provides a degree of protection for borrowers. Notably, under Trump's first term, Repay was available, and the administration never took any steps to challenge or attempt to eliminate it. And then some non-Save repayment plans are unlikely to change. So some borrowers fear that the Trump administration will make things difficult for borrowers. However, a simple cost-benefit analysis suggests that this is unlikely. So student loan forgiveness does remain unpopular within Trump's administration and base. But there aren't widespread calls to redefine discretionary income, to adjust the percentages borrowers pay each month. There have been, no outcries for that. So changes like these would be legally complex, unpopular pretty much for everyone who has student loans, which is both with Trump's base as well as Biden's base. And it would unlikely to be seen as a win. It's also worth noting that congressional offices, both Republican and Democratic, are filled with recent graduates struggling with student loans and living in an expensive city. So the potential benefit of making repayment more punitive compared to the potential downsides really just makes these changes unlikely. All right, I am going to hand it over to Jobe to talk about the future of public service loan forgiveness.
Thank you so much. I was taking a look at the Q&A and I saw people had some questions about PSLF, so let's jump right in and talk about the future of PSLF and specifically why PSLF should not change. So when Trump was first elected, many borrowers feared that would mean the end of PSLF. PSLF passed and was put into place in 2007, and the first group of borrowers that became eligible was in 2017, which was during the Trump administration. Even though that was like the first time borrowers could receive this forgiveness, during the first 2 years of his term, the Republicans controlled both houses of Congress, and no plans to eliminate the program were seriously considered. In addition, because PSLF was put into law by Congress and has been in place since 2007, eliminating it would require another act of Congress. So I saw a couple questions about how Congress could repeal a law. They would have to get together, pass another law saying they were undoing what they've already done. Now, even if they were going to do this, it has to pass both chambers in both the House, the Senate, and be signed by the president. There is something in the Senate called the filibuster, which can be used to prevent a bill from passing. To stop that filibuster, you have to have a supermajority where more than 2/3 of the chamber is voting to stop it. So even though the Democrats are in the minority, that filibuster would allow them to prevent any sort of repeal of this because they would have it in their wheelhouse to try and stop the passing of that law. Also, don't forget that PSLF language is included in that MPN that all student loan borrowers signed when they took out their student loans. And one other thing to try and reassure you is that when proposals have been made to eliminate PSLF, they usually include some provisions to grandfather in existing borrowers. Next, let's talk a little bit about the one-time payment account adjustments. This has been an ongoing process. I think that's one of the most common questions I feel that we receive from borrowers is about getting credit for past payments. We have been waiting for payment histories to be adjusted for quite some time now. This one-time account adjustment was announced several years ago. It's still ongoing. And frankly, we were surprised the adjustment was not completed before the election. Likely, this was because things like the SAVE lawsuits consumed many of the Department of Education's resources, and they just didn't have the capacity to do everything all at once. However, finishing the one-time account adjustment should become a priority so that they can get it done before January. Even if it is not completed by the time that the Trump administration takes over, they may be legally required to complete it. So for those of you that are pursuing PSLF, trying to benefit from these account adjustments and getting credit for more past payments, we're really encouraging you to make sure you've certified all current and past employment. So use those employment certification forms, get all of your employment certified so that if any additional payments can be counted, they can be automatically done and your PSLF payment counts will be updated automatically. So now let's talk a little bit about policy changes versus practical changes. Now, we've been talking about sort of what's on the horizon for policy over the next 4 years, but there are some practical considerations that we should take into account as well. So we've already touched on this a little bit, but for example, when that first group of borrowers became eligible for PSLF, that was during President Trump's first term. The initial rejection rate for that was over 99%, meaning that for 10 years, borrowers were uh, thinking they were meeting the requirements, they were thinking they were going to get that forgiveness, and when they applied, over 99% of them were denied. So PSLF was still a valid program, but there were many hoops and hurdles that borrowers had to navigate, and most were disqualified. Now, the Biden administration made some efforts to help more people qualify, kind of course correct. One of those that we saw was the PSLF waiver, which happened a couple of years ago. In addition, the one-time account adjustment is also working to do that. So all that to say, while right now PSLF is less difficult to navigate, the lesson still remains that just because a program is in place, poor implementation may make it harder for borrowers. So just because a program is there does not mean it will always be straightforward. If you are working towards forgiveness, I saw a couple people in the Q&A saying they are a year and a half out from forgiveness. Any of you who are trying to pursue that, within the coming months and years, you need to pay close attention to all details so that you do not mess up any eligibility. You can get that forgiveness you've been working towards, and you can avoid any surprises at the end of the line. So kind of all of that to say, a big tip for moving forward is to be proactive. We don't know what the future holds, but it's possible that there are some changes on the horizon. The current administration has been making efforts to monitor servicers and hold them accountable, but there is no guarantee that that will continue. This may mean that servicer issues could be on the rise in the future. They may face less accountability and become less helpful to you. In addition, qualifying for forgiveness may become more challenging again. So, in situations like this, you have to be proactive. You cannot just leave everything up to chance and hope that it works out. You do need to stay on top of these things, making sure that you are meeting requirements, you know what's going on with your student loans, and be sure to document your progress. It's a good idea to download copies of everything. Many borrowers do this already. We're recommending it as a good practice moving forward. Download copies of statements and communications with your servicers. If you make a call, take detailed notes, write down, what you asked, what you were told, and when it happened. Because, we see it happen now sometimes even. You may call your servicer, talk to them and hear one thing, and the next time you talk to them, they could say something completely different. So having these detailed records protects you and ensures that you are getting what you are earned, deserved out of all of this, and that you are not getting the runaround. They may never be needed, but it doesn't hurt to be proactive. So with that, a final thought, don't ignore student loan news. If this election did not go your way, it may be tempting to unplug, disengage, and say, I'm done with it. I don't want to hear anything about politics or news right now. That might even be the healthiest approach for you. But given all of the challenges borrowers might face in the future, you do not want to miss major student loan developments. So stay up to date. To help borrowers with this, Savi monitors all of this for you. We send out breaking policy updates via email. We host webinars just like this one to ensure that you have the most recent information. So even if you are not keeping up with the news yourself, be sure to at least keep up with Savi so that you can stay in the know, specifically when it comes to your student loans. The news isn't always good, especially as we've seen over the last couple years. There have been some setbacks for some new programs that were announced, but at the end of the day, the goal here is to help make life with loans as manageable as possible. We want to help, we can help, so rely on Savi in times like this to try and make this process a little bit easier. So now I think this is a great transition. A couple of borrowers were asking, well, how exactly can Savi do all of this? So one feature in your Savi account is that you can apply for some of the programs we've discussed. So on the next slide, you can see exactly what that looks like. You can see your eligibility, and then from there, we will help you to submit any necessary forms. So if you are leaving this town hall knowing I'm going to enroll today and make sure that I'm on track, you can do that in your Savi account. Depending on which plan you're pursuing, we will create the necessary forms, make sure they're completed correctly so they have the best chances of being accepted, and we will take care of submitting them on your behalf. So whether you are enrolling in an income-driven plan, whether you're trying to get that PSLF employment certification form signed, we're going to be there to help and get those applications in as quickly and easily as possible. And as a reminder, it's free to see what's available, but to create your applications, that is a Savi Essential or Pro feature. So you will need to be enrolled in Essential or Pro to create those applications. And can Savi help me with my loans? The answer is, of course, always yes. So after entering your information, we're going to show you those personalized options for managing your student loans. You'll see exactly what repayment and forgiveness options are available based on your unique situation. But no matter what your situation is, and if you need some more assistance, we're there to help with that as well. Our Essential and our Pro memberships provide one-on-one support from our student loan experts. A couple of people were wondering in the Q&A, do you have real people helping? Is there a real person I can talk to? And yes, we have a great team of student loan experts that can answer all your questions. They can answer things about eligibility. They can help you with enrolling in programs, or even help with more complicated issues like resolving issues with your student loan servicer. Whatever it is, we do not want you to struggle alone. We are here to help. We want you to reach out to us. And we'd like to say that there's no concern too big or too small. So if you ever have questions, if you're looking for assistance with your situation, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Lindsay to help us wrap up.
Great. Thank you so much, Jobe, and to Katie. And I know that that was a lot of information to consume in one sitting. And obviously, these are fluid situations. And again, when and if there are changes, you can count on Savi to communicate those to you. But I want to just sort of recap a few next steps for all of you and show you exactly how you can rely on Savi, especially during this turbulent time, to navigate all of those steps forward. The first is just making sure that you have access to your Savi account and that you have gone through the process and completed that Savi application with all the relevant information. This is important because when we communicate to our borrowers around important updates and certain things that may impact them, oftentimes we look at the information that a borrower has provided to really customize that outreach, knowing that based on your particular loan type or repayment plan, this is something that you're going to really need to pay attention to. So it's worth taking another look at your Savi account if you have not done so in a while, and making sure all of that is complete and up to date. So you can access that by scanning the QR code here, or we're going to put a link in the chat where you can log back into your Savi account at buysavi.com. All right, but that's going to be sort of the first step, is just making sure that everything in there is as complete and updated as possible. And then using Savi is as simple as it can be. And that's where really the technology comes in. Instead of having to fill out a bunch of different applications for these programs, you fill out one Savi application. And from there, we are able to pre-fill the necessary applications for you. You're able to see your best options when it comes to repayment and forgiveness plans, and down to the cent as to what you'd be eligible for. And then again, if you are one of those Essential or Pro members, Savi takes on all of that administrative burden for you and enrolls you in those programs with the click of a button. And that's exactly where you have the choice to decide how you want to utilize Savi. We always offer the ability for anyone to create a free Savi account. and utilize Savi at no cost. We call that our DIY plan. So you're able to enter and complete all that information, see your best options. And it's at that point where you'll decide, I'm going to do this on my own. We'll provide you with instructions and the forms to complete. And that's all under that DIY. But we realize that one of the biggest burdens and biggest obstacles for so many borrowers in this process is the application and administrative side of things, especially when it comes to their student loan servicers. I'm sure the majority of you on this call today have experienced some type of friction, I'll call it, when trying to either address an issue with your servicer, get a question answered, or even just reach a human being. I was just on hold with a borrower the other day for over 2 hours trying to get a hold of an agent at Mohila. All to say, we understand these pain points, and that's why we provided these sort of premium level of services, because we knew borrowers, deserved that extra support and needed that help getting from start to finish. So the Essential, which is our most popular, provides all of those services for you. We are going to take on that administrative burden, fill out all of the forms and submit them on your behalf, and then monitor them with you to ensure they achieve the desired outcome. And then we also offer a pro plan. This is sort of our highest level or tier of service, more like a concierge level, where you're able to schedule a one-on-one consultation with one of our student loan experts right from your Savi account at a time of your convenience. And they will walk you through the entire process and help get everything set up for you. But again, most borrowers opt for that Essential, where you'll receive, again, the application support and monitoring, and of course, access to one-on-one support from our dedicated team of experts. As we speak, they are actively monitoring our live chat, which is a new feature that we just launched a few weeks ago. So if you scroll on over to your Savi account, at any point now or later, you will be able to see that live chat. And these are our real, actual student loan experts at Savi and not an AI bot. So that's something we really take pride in. And again, you can access that incredible customer support team by clicking Contact Support from your Savi account. You'll see our Help Center, where we have tons of great content and articles. A lot of the information that we've shared with you here today and about these programs will be visible in that Help Center. And you can also contact our team directly by sending them a message through your Savi account. We also have a telephone number as well that is listed when you click that Contact Support button. All right, so just to recap here, a few next steps. All right, again, making sure you have access to your Savi account and that all of your information is as updated as possible. And then for those who are looking for that extra support, especially when it comes to their applications, I will say this: for anyone and everyone who is eligible for public service loan forgiveness and has not yet submitted their employment certification forms for this year or ever, now is the time. While we just sort of went through and explained that, public service loan forgiveness, is unlikely to go away, I think everyone should act as if it might. And so I encourage everyone to submit their applications and forms for public service loan forgiveness as soon as possible. And again, this is something that you can do with the click of a button via your Savi account with that Essential membership. And again, we're going to monitor all those applications for you to ensure we hold your servicer accountable. They're reviewing them in a timely manner, and you reach that desired outcome. All right. And if you need any help or assistance along the way, or you had questions here today that we weren't able to answer that are very specific to your situation, the best place to get those answered and continue that conversation is going to be in your Savi account. So you can scan that QR code or log back in at buysavi.com. And you may even see and be able to chat now with our experts for assistance. And by upgrading to that Essential or Pro plan, again, you really are able to access them full time whenever you need, as many times as you need. And they really are there to ensure, again, that everyone reaches that forgiveness finish line. All right. So we appreciate everyone taking time out of their day to join us. Again, my name is Lindsay Clark. As the Chief Borrower Advocate here at Savi, I am truly responsible for ensuring that each and every one of you never have to navigate your student debt alone. I have over $200,000 in student loan debt. I know what it's like to have to do that on your own. And that's exactly why Savi exists. So we hope that this was helpful in delivering some of this news. But this is not the end. This is only the beginning. And we want to make sure that all of you are set up so that we can provide that assistance for you going forward. So again, please make sure you've logged into that Savi account. You've completed that information, and upgrading to Essential or Pro is going to ensure that you can have access to us at any time, at any point in the process that you need to, because we are truly here to help make sure that all of you are not tackling this alone. So we appreciate you taking the time and look forward to continuing these conversations in your Savi account, and hope all of you have a great rest of the day. Thank you, Katie, and thank you, Jobe, for your incredible presentations. And our borrower advocacy team will be back soon. Thanks so much, everyone.